Cool. So today's workshop I call Mindful Productivity. And I want to start by asking, what is productivity? And I'm just curious how you would define it, how you understand it. So if anybody wants to share. You guys in the digital space, you guys could also. So what is productivity to you? How do you understand productivity?
Productivity is being able to get the best work done in order to reach your goal.
I like that. That's cool. Anybody else have a different definition or a different understanding?
Focus, clarity.
Focus and clarity. I like that. You guys over there, you guys have anything you want to share?
Getting things done in a timely manner and efficiently.
Ooh,
And checking them off your list.
I like that.
Yes.
That's good. Okay.
Positive reinforcement.
Yeah.
Need a pen?
Yeah, thank you.
So that was Sabrina, right? I like what Sabrina said. So that's a pretty good definition, I think, is getting things done. And it's actually the title of what many consider the Productivity Bible, Getting Things Done by David Allen. It's a great book, highly recommend it. There's some ideas that I'm going to be sharing that are from David Allen, but I have kind of my own understanding. Still, I highly recommend his system, and I think it's very useful. But I think there's a better definition for productivity than getting things done, and that's getting important things done. So we don't want to just do anything, we want to do what's really important. So now I want to take us to mindful productivity, and this is like a term that's been popping up a lot. It's really popular, and I'm just curious if anybody knows what we mean by mindful productivity or how you may understand mindful productivity.
Maybe being mindful to the time, or like how in a timely manner you can get things done, or how somebody else can get things done, because not everybody moves at the same pace.
Okay, I think that's useful what you said. Not everybody moves at the same pace. Anybody else want to add to that? What we
Prioritizing?
Okay, that's what we're doing with productivity, right? Productivity, we're prioritizing. But what else could the mindful aspect be pointing to?
Being in the here and now. So not thinking like what you have to do later or whatever it is, just thinking what you have to do in the now.
Yeah.
Being present with what's going on now, what you're doing right now. Anybody else want to add? Anything else to that? All right, so the way that I define mindful productivity is getting important things done while managing your mental and emotional states. So to me, I believe that the only true productivity is mindful productivity. And even in David Allen's book, the subtitle is The Art of Stress-Free Productivity. And that's because we can't be productive for a long time if we're constantly stressed out. And that's why it's important to manage our mental and emotional states. So we want to play the long game. Work and life is a lot more like a marathon than a sprint. Although I do think that how to be productive in our work, we want to kind of work in sprints, and we'll get to that a little bit later. But I think in general, what I'm saying about playing the long game is understanding like how it's like being able to manage yourself so you can be productive over a long period of time. Like you don't want to just be productive for 1 week and just burn yourself out and then be sick or stressed out and not be able to consistently show up and do the work you have to do. So that's what I mean by playing the long game, and that's why I have the tortoise over here. The tortoise in the hair. So here's a quote from David Allen. There's no reason to ever have the same thought twice unless you like having that thought. And our brains are like really good at being creative, but they're not good at storing information. And what really happens to a lot of us is when we think about something that we have to do, we just keep thinking about it. Oh, I have to not forget to get the groceries. I have to not forget to walk the dog. I have to, whatever you got to do, you keep thinking about it, and it's constantly there. So you're having the same thought dozens, if not hundreds of times in a day. So what we want to do, and that creates a lot of stress. So what we want to do is we want to close the thought loop. And the way that we do that is by writing things down, right? So we want to get in the habit of, whenever something pops in our head, like, oh, I need to get this done, you write it down. And this is something that I try to always do, is just making a habit of constantly writing things down, so I'm not trying to keep them in my head. So I'm not trying to store them there. And it doesn't matter what you use, whether you use calendar, Evernote, Trello. I don't know what kind of management system everybody uses.
We should probably get on the same page.
Well, there's a lot, and there's people that I use Evernote. I've been using Evernote for a long time. There's different ways to use these systems, and they have their pros and cons. I've just been using Evernote. I like it, but it doesn't really matter. The point that I'm trying to get at is you need something where you're writing stuff down, that you're putting stuff and you're getting them out of your head, so you're closing these thought loops.
So one of the things that happens is that we have multiple systems and some of them are not integrated. So we use Trello and Google Calendar and Google Docs and Google Sheets and Google Notes.
Yeah, so I can show you how to link everything up. Like, there's these crazy productivity systems that I'm not gonna get into right now because it's kind of more technical, but there's ways to like link everything. So it's like, what's on your calendar is on your Evernote, is on your Trello, and so on and so forth. But yeah, that's more in-depth stuff. So we can talk about that later. So here's another very important element for me when I think about productivity, and that's preparing tomorrow's to-do list today, or like the night before. So whatever, like every single day I make sure that I go on my calendar and I'm like, okay, what am I doing tomorrow? And I'm writing that stuff down. Because when the day comes, I don't have to waste energy thinking, oh, what should I do today? Or what am I gonna do today? I already have all that mapped out and I'm ready to go. The problem with to-do lists is they're endless, right? There's always something to do and you're always gonna be thinking about what else do I have to do, and it's an endless thing. So the key with productivity, once again, is coming back to the important part. And there's something known as the MIT, which is the most important task. So this is where I think that it's important for us to choose the 3 most important tasks. And the question is, what are the 3 things that I could get, that if I get done tomorrow, my day will be a success? And I think that's a good number to have. And then you can still do other things. You can get 10 things done, right? Whatever. But the point is, like, focus, prioritize on what are the 3 most important things. So here's another quote from the 34th President of the United States and military general Dwight Eisenhower. In preparing for battle, I have always found that plans are useless, but planning is indispensable. And I love this quote because I believe there's so much truth to it. You never know how life is going to unfold, and you never know what's going to happen, how your day is going to go. You could plan and things are just not going to go your way. But there's something in the planning process that it creates like a structure, it creates a discipline, it creates a vision. And I think that that's indispensable for being productive. Like, if we don't plan, if we don't think about how we want to work, what we're going to do, what our vision is, what our goals are, we're not going to be as effective as if we are doing these things.
It's like how we say in therapy, the process itself is more important than the actual.
Yeah, I like that for sure. So here is a great tool, and it's called the Eisenhower box, named after Dwight Eisenhower. And we have 4 blocks. And on the left upper hand side, you have the urgent and important block. And then on the up right hand side, you have not urgent, but important block. And on the bottom left hand, you have the not important but urgent block. And on the bottom right, we have the not urgent and not important block. So this is a great tool to just kind of have in the back of your head that whenever a task pops up or you think of something, you could start kind of prioritizing and thinking like, where does this go? So I'd like to start with not important, not urgent, just to kind of see at the base level of like the stuff we shouldn't be doing or thinking about or wasting our precious energy on. Does anybody have any examples of something that's not urgent and not important?
When it's like too far out, like, go ahead.
I have a specific task.
Give me a specific task. Yeah.
The task that I just gave Stacy. So I got clinicians a gift for the holidays, the Visa cards,
Mhm.
and they got hacked. So I asked BB and Stacy to call the card company and see how we can get that money back.
Mhm.
So I don't think it's that important, and it's definitely not urgent compared to all the other tasks that we have within the office.
Yeah, so I'm trying to think how I would frame that. Yeah, it's not urgent, it's not important, but it is something that you're gonna do, right? It is something that you still have to do. So I would put it in the urgent, not important box because you still want to do it, like you still want to get it done.
I think I would put it in important, not urgent.
Yeah, yeah. You're right.
Do they ever cross? Like, can I?
Give me an example of how.
Well, so if we're using this as an example, I'm going to decide when it needs to be done, so creating a deadline, and then I'm gonna choose to delegate it because it's not important for me, but it's still important to get done in general.
Yeah, I'm thinking about that.
Because that's kind of what she did, right? You decided that it was going to be delegated. You're just not
So
gonna
for
do
me,
it.
it's not important, not urgent, but when I pass it down to the girls, it's important, but not urgent.
Yeah,
And then they have to
I love
decide
it.
when to do it.
yeah. See, I didn't even think about. That's why I like
Levels.
doing it like this. But that's a great way to think about it. How this box is going to be different depending on what your tasks do, and like not everybody's delegating. Not everybody's going to be delegating. So it just somebody else could be choosing your task for you. And like this is what's important for you to do. If somebody's delegating a task for you, then they're choosing what's important for you to do. But this is kind of a more expansive view. But yeah, that's definitely a good example of how it, and I like how you said that, how it crosses. So some other examples that I have of something that's not important or not urgent is just like scrolling on social media when you're at work.
It wouldn't even, it doesn't make
It's not a, well, it is a task.
It is a task,
It is a
yeah,
task.
because for some people, you put that on your to-do list, like 15 minutes of scrolling through, but then also that helps with people's mental health. Sometimes they need that
I think
15
it
minutes.
Actually
Oh.
makes your mental health way worse.
Not always, not
No.
always.
We'll get to that part, and I have strong opinions about social media and scrolling, but we'll get to the part about the break. We'll get to the
I have an example.
Yeah.
So this is a good example because I've been doing this a lot with the delete one.
Mm.
So I eliminate it. So garbage pickup is in my community on Mondays and Thursdays.
Okay.
And on Mondays they pick up recycling regular. And on Thursday you only pick up regular.
Okay.
So it means like me getting up at a certain time, or being outside at a certain time, or like, so I just been deleting Thursdays. So I just make sure all my garbage is out on Sunday. And then it piles up for Thursday, and then I get it back out. So I just deleted it because I'm like, it's like a headache trying to fit. They're not gonna pick up the recycles, just the regular.
Yeah.
So why don't I just skip that?
I like
So I
that.
just skipped
I like
it.
that. Just simplifying.
I'm not sure if the rodents are probably happy, and I need to get back on top of it at some point. But I skipped it for now.
Yeah, no, I like that. I like it's also about like you mentioned that it was trash. So it's like, oh, this is just trash. Like I don't have to spend so much time thinking about this. Like it's just trash. I'm gonna put it out once a week instead of twice a week, and just make it simpler. So I definitely like that example. So let's. What are some examples of something that's urgent and not important? Can anybody think of what that would be? And once again, I think also that this is not like a science. It's kind of an art. That's why it's like, that's why the whole crossing thing came up. Like, well, it depends for who, and things can shift and move. This is not perfect. It requires a human intelligence to think. It's not like the computer is not deciding this.
Calling Jewel to invite her for the role play.
Urgent and non-important?
Yeah, we delegated it to BB. So for her, it's urgent and
Yes.
important.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I wanna try, like, because the way that I think, like, I wanna try to use examples
From
us, yeah. So
please,
like,
please do.
that's why when she said scrolling, I'm like, well, that's why I was like, to me, that's not a task.
Well, sometimes Stacy has to post stuff on Facebook that's engaging with social media. For her, it might be.
Yeah, but it's
important.
not scrolling, you just go to post, like, you don't have to, like,
You can
I mean, yeah, you have,
also
like, you go, my hands are always doing
On my
something.
Instagram, I have a lot of stuff that's involved with like child's play, like really good mental health, like profiles and stuff. So I don't have like random BS that's on there, you know?
Yeah.
So for me, when I go on it, I'm like, oh, cool, some cool fun things for me to do with my kid for the weekend. Oh, we're gonna play with this, we're gonna save all the toilet paper rolls, because I get ideas from that, you know? Yeah, sometimes. Not always. I plan to.
I like being mindful with social media use and being mindful about who we follow. Like, I'm big on that.
Yeah.
Like having a very clean stream. But I guess that's like a different thing. But
when Habibat asked about her filling out the supervision paperwork, all the forms, so it's important. I mean, it's not important for me, but it's urgent because she's done with Resilient Mind this week. So I delegated to Natalie because she's her supervisor to let her know, to help her out with the paperwork.
But also, it's not urgent, like, her paperwork is not urgent.
It may be urgent to her.
It's not.
urgent to her.
It's not, because she has to submit it in 3 years.
But
I'm saying if Natalie has
It's
other
personality.
things to do, like, that's not an urgent task. You would do whatever you have to do first and get it done, like, it's not an emergency. Unless we have a clinician that's like ready to submit their paperwork, which she's not, then I understand, like, every day counts because we've been waiting for so long. But it's not like an urgent, I wouldn't consider that an urgent task to do that paperwork.
So question.
What about the simple progress notes? Like, for example, like, it's urgent, it needs to get done, but it's not important to me, so I do delegate it to their supervisors and make sure that it does get done.
So that's important and urgent,
not for her.
not for her.
Yeah.
So maybe we can, like, get
Not
really
important to
good.
me, but it needs to get done.
The point is, you want to get really good at what it is for you.
No,
That's
but-
why it's
So I think, yes, so, okay, what it is for us.
This
Because
is
I'm
different.
thinking, like, or what it is, like, each supervisor can let the next person know what they think because they're supervised. I don't know, I'm just thinking out loud.
yeah, but when she's running payroll, it becomes urgent and important for her because then the notes are not done and she can't run payroll.
No, what I'm saying is that
Yes.
we can get very good at using and understanding this so that, like, let's say you contact Natalie and you're like, Natalie, have you got wants your paperwork? I think that it's not urgent, not important. I think that for you it's not, and then Natalie can decide what she thinks. That's what I would do.
Well, I mean, I'm not really gonna tell her what's important or, I mean, unless it's like really, really urgent.
Okay, so like if I came up to you
Yeah.
and I said, Michelle, can we answer Jewel, right?
Yeah.
So I can say, Michelle, can you please answer Jewel? And I'll say, I think that it's urgent and, well, not urgent, but important. And then you can go and figure it out based on that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, I think, to me, because I'm giving you this job, I think that it's this, and so on.
So I have another example. So I got an email, a therapist is attending a training this weekend. And I kind of read into this email between yesterday and today and saying, I need to get authorization from whoever is my clinical lead in order to attend this training. So immediately for me, I bumped that up to urgent and important. So if she was going maybe next week, it would probably be urgent and not important for me. But she's gonna be going this weekend, and today's Thursday. So I bumped it up to the urgent, important immediately, and then kind of copied Michelle and say, hey, I want this letter, I'm gonna send it so she can attend her training. So I think what the meaning of urgent, not important is you decide if you need to schedule a time to do it versus you have to bump it up to important, do now.
Do it right now.
You should
Yeah.
also let her know.
I want to go back to the example you guys were saying about What was the thing of what?
Jewel, so, Jewel never answered
So I responded to her, she was one of the candidates.
Yes, I understand. She never
She
replied.
never replied to the invitation to come role play with us.
Yes.
So Yana and I discussed it and we said maybe we should reach out to her via phone call instead of messaging on Indeed.
Yeah.
So then we delegated that task to Bibi to call her
Yeah.
and ask her what's going on. So she called her,
Yeah.
went straight to voicemail, and no message was left yet. She's gonna revisit the phone
Yeah.
call later today.
But I think that task is important and urgent because we need to hire people, and hiring is an important and urgent task. But in the frame of you being able to delegate it, that's once you hand it off.
yes,
Yeah.
that's when it became important and urgent.
For her.
Yes.
Yes.
So I think, I don't know if this is a good idea, but I think maybe we should maybe have a more intense training on the Eisenhower box sometime in the future, and then we can literally like start talking like this to each other.
Yeah.
And be like on a super same page.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that would really help with the productivity as a team.
I think that the conversation you're having right now is good. Like you just have these conversations because it's like I'm not an expert on this. Like I'm at my edge. You start asking me certain questions. I'm like, well, I'm not even sure. You know, it's like because it depends. Like certain tasks and things in my workflow, I know how to think about it. So I'll share some examples of like how I can think about these things or how things change. Or like I'll give you an example of. I'm blanking on the example that I wanted to give. Oh, here's an example of something that is potentially urgent and important, right? So one of the tasks that I was working on was the clinician bios, right? On ZocDoc, on Psych Today. And normally that would be an urgent and important task because we need good bios for the clinicians so they're filling up with clients. But the thing is, most of our clinicians are already filled up and they already have bios. They have their bios that they made. I'm just trying to make the bios better. So even though initially this was an urgent and important task, I pushed it off to not urgent and important. It's still important, but there's other things that I have to do that are popping up that I'm like, I gotta get this done now. So I wanted to complete these bios. I kind of missed those deadlines, and sometimes you may miss deadlines because of things like that, and that's what happens to me. Like I'm like, I want to get this done by this time, but then other stuff pops up, and I'm like, hey, I could actually push this off. And that's what I did. So that's kind of how it shifted. So that's maybe like a live example.
But I feel like that also ended up shifting to be later because not everybody got back to us with the bios.
That's
an
an-
forever.
error.
Yeah, I was
You
just
want me to
thinking
pop the
that.
window?
I got it.
The middle one's easier to open.
But you're right about that, and that's a part of it, right?
Yeah.
That's the part where you can plan as much as you want, but then something's gonna come up, and it's like if I'm depending on somebody, then it's like well, I can't get this done, so I have to wait for somebody. So it does get pushed.
Yeah.
So another example of something that's not urgent but important is like the way I would look at it is like something like professional development or like a long-term business strategy. And that's because it can't be urgent, it can be done now. It's not something that's going to be done today. It's something that may take months. It's something that it's an ongoing process. So I think the ongoing things are more not urgent, but they're still very important. Like setting your vision, knowing the mission, knowing the values, like the culture, the structure of the organization. That's an ongoing process. And then we finally have the urgent and important box. So like, what are some urgent and important tasks?
Payroll.
Payroll. Yeah.
No joking. I was
Yeah,
just
it
thinking
is.
how payroll goes from important and not urgent to urgent and important, depending on the day. So like if payroll is done on Monday, it's important and
Urgent.
and sleep. Sabrina, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay, so if payroll is done on Monday, or you have to do it on Monday, then what is it based on the Eisenhower box?
So just side note, with this Eisenhower box, I believe that everybody's box would look different based on their tasks and what they're trying to achieve. So for me, based on my schedule, Monday is urgent. I mean, it's not urgent, but it's important.
Yeah.
Tuesday is, because that's cutting it close, that's already urgent and important if I don't complete it by then.
Yeah.
Because I have multiple tasks that I need to do throughout my shift. I
like this. I feel like I'm learning a lot because I wasn't even thinking about the shifting thing. So that's that's new to me. Like to think about it that way is new.
So I have questions about this. So I have throughout my day like certain things that pop up like all the time, whether it's an email that turns into like a whole work day or work week, one email, or like I'll get a phone call, and then I always struggle with figuring out like this for the spontaneous tasks that just keep coming.
Okay, so well, it depends what it is. So let's look at a couple of examples, right? Let's say we get an email from an upset customer. Where does that go? Where does that go?
Sabrina.
No. Yeah. No, but I'm saying, what box does that
It's
go?
urgent and important.
Urgent and important.
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah. So that's very clear.
Yeah.
But now, if we get, let's say we get an email, I don't know, from an internet provider pitching us like, oh, you could save $10 a month to switch in your service.
Delete.
I was gonna say that, but then I was like, no, because I could save $10 a month.
Could you though?
Not important, not urgent.
Not important, not urgent, and maybe not urgent, not important, because like a lot of times we just get emails or calls that it's just like somebody else soliciting like, you know, a service, trying to like sell you something that you probably don't need. So there's a lot of stuff like that. So with emails, and this is the email part is interesting. A lot of the stuff in emails is gonna be not important, and it's gonna be urgent but not important, right? Somebody just sent you an email. Oh, look, like you're checking your email, a new email popped up, right? But you have to be able to assess very quickly, what is this? And can I put it off to later? Do I delete it? Do I ignore it? What do I do with it? Because it's very easy for that to capture your attention, and you could have all these, like that's what you said, you could have all these important tasks, but now you're going down this rabbit hole following somebody else. Somebody else is now driving your attention. You're not in control of your attention anymore.
There's a feature, right? The focus feature that they added to all these Apple products, where you can set a timer for when you don't receive push notifications. So if you set your focus as work, you're not going to receive any push notifications until you turn it off.
What's considered a push notification?
Anything.
Like a text?
A text, a phone call,
You're
anything.
gonna have to show me how to set that up.
So-
Did you know that?
About those kind of apps. I know
It's an app, it's a feature.
a feature on the phone.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be honest, I pretty much have no notifications. I shut off my notifications. I don't want to hear things. I don't want to see things. My phone will vibrate when I get a text. That's it. I don't have notifications for email. I don't have notifications for social media, because all of that stuff is probably gonna make you less productive. Now it depends, right? If your work is like, you gotta be on top of emails, right? So as soon as an email comes, you have to answer. If that's your work, then you
I don't think that's really anybody's work.
for the most part, no.
Everything can wait, like.
Yes. That's another thing that I wanted to mention a little later on, but like my friend just called me, and I usually I won't even respond. I just won't pick up, and I'll hit them up later. I was leaving, you were picking me up, so I sent them a text. Hey, can't speak right now. Let's talk later. And that's it. Like I literally, when people call me, you can't reach me in the first half of the day, because it's like I can chat with a friend, and I could, like, obviously emergencies and things pop up and you have to adjust, but in general, it's like a friend's calling me to chat. I could chat with them in the second half of the day but there's stuff that I could only do in a certain period of time, because how my brain works at that time is different. And I'm gonna get to that also.
That's why the focus button is good. Because during that time where you're really focused and important, you just turn it on, and you can set a timer for how long you want that button on for, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, and then it turns back on for you.
And if you're worried about like an emergency happening, you can filter who's allowed to reach you in that moment.
Yeah.
Like your mom can reach you, your husband can reach you,
Yeah.
like for emergency.
That's really cool.
And everybody else can like call 911.
Let's
Sorry,
let's move on, because but this is
Stuck on this box.
no, but this is an important. This is probably one of the most important aspects of, because that's what helping us prioritize and decide what is important. So
It goes off with like decision.
And they also have like, what is it called? Like a Trello for this. I've looked at it before. Remember, Sabrina? We've looked into
I
it.
remember you talking to us.
So maybe
Matrix,
we could-
Eisenhower
Yes,
Matrix.
that's what it was.
all right, so let's move on, and we could. Oh, why is it doing this?
We're stuck on the box for so long.
Yeah, no, I was having
It's
issues.
glitching, yeah.
I was having issues with this before. And then, okay, cool. All right, so here's another quote from performance expert Jim Lohr, and that's energy, not time, is the fundamental currency of high performance. So this is now getting kind of to the mindful aspect. It's not enough to just manage your time. You also have to manage your energy. So managing energy requires consistently checking in on our inner state. So the way that the questions that I would ask are kind of have, these are like inquiries that are should be playing in the back of your mind always. If you want to be mindful, if you want to be more mindful. And it's like, the first one is, well, how am I feeling? Like, what am I feeling right now? Is it pleasant? Is it unpleasant? Do I feel focused? Do I feel scattered? Do I feel relaxed? Do I feel agitated? And then the second one is, what is my energy level like? Is it high? Is it moderate? Is it low? So these are like the two inquiries that are helpful to have, to be mindful, to be present with yourself, to see what's going on with you. And the way that I use these inquiries is I use them to match task to state. So to me, that means asking the question of, once I check in with myself and I know how I'm feeling, what my energy level is like, am I frustrated, or do I feel like super sharp and like relaxed and ready to work? What tasks should I do given my current mental state? So that's like another inquiry that I'm constantly asking myself. And generally, our most important tasks require us to be cognitively sharp. And for most of us, that's first thing in the morning, that's early. Certain tasks require less cognitive effort, so we could push them off. So I'll give an example of how I would go about doing this inquiry. So say I'm writing an article, right? And this was an important task for today. And I've been writing for 2 hours. And, then I start checking in with myself. Okay, what's going on with me? Oh, I kind of feel tired. I'm getting a little frustrated, I'm not working in the most effective manner. Like, I'm seeing that. But this is a very important task for me to get this article done. So I can choose to push through it, keep going, or I could think, okay, maybe I can finish this tomorrow, right? Get another writing session in tomorrow when I'm fresh, and I can do something else right now, given that I'm kind of tired. So I can do something else, right? Like something that is less cognitively demanding. And I think this is like a useful framing to use to help us with being productive. Now, here's another way to look at our energy, and this is called utilizing ultradian cycles. And we all know about the circadian cycles, or circadian rhythm, right? It's the 24-hour clock. You get sleepy at a certain time, you get energetic at a certain time, your body temperature is highest at a certain time and lowest at a certain time. You're more prepared to do physical work at a certain time and cognitive work, and this shifts. But within the circadian cycle, there's these mini cycles that happen, energy cycles, and they're called ultradian cycles. And typically for most people, you get 90 minutes where you feel focused, where you have a lot of energy, and then naturally what happens is your energy slumps, right, for 20 minutes. So this is how we want to think about like doing work. And this is the sprint aspect that I was talking about before. You get in there, you sprint, you do your 90 minutes like that. Hopefully this presentation, everything here is going to be like 90 minutes. Because at some point, like around 90 minutes, some people it's longer, some people could be a little shorter, but around 90 minutes, we're all gonna kind of get like, all right, hungry, tired, like annoyed, frustrated, you're gonna wanna leave the room, get air. So the more that we tune in to this within ourselves, like paying attention, like you could tune into, you literally become more mindful, and you could already know like, oh, I'm in the energy cycle. Like I feel the uplifting energy. I feel like I want to concentrate and do work. And then you also have these like, oh, I just want to take a nap, or I want to go on my phone, whatever, whatever that is for you. I want to call a friend, whatever it is, but you want to take a break from doing that deep focus work. And so ideally we want to be doing what what author and science professor Cal Newport calls deep work, and that's being able to focus on a cognitively demanding task and being free of distractions. And the key here is the distraction part. It's putting ourselves in an environment where there's nothing that can steal our focus, where there's no meetings, there's no social media, there's no chit-chatting, none of that, right? It's just doing deep work. And once again, this deep work aspect, it kind of depends on what your tasks are. Because if your tasks are picking up the phone, or you have to constantly move your attention around, you're not really doing deep work. But in general, I think as people progress in their work and in their position and what they do, like you're gonna have more tasks and things that are more creative. They require more thought, they require more cognition, and you're gonna need to do deep work. So I think this is a useful framing for everybody, regardless of where you're at or what your tasks are right now. And ideally, I would say you want to get at least one deep work session a day. Like for me, if I can sit down and do something creative and use my mind and really think about solving some kind of problem or doing something creative for at least 90 minutes in the day, I feel good, right? That doesn't mean I'm not going to do other things, right? I'll do other things and I'll keep working, but that 90-minute block, I was just like, oh, like you can literally do so much like important stuff in 90 minutes or in 2 hours. There's this whole thing like the 8-hour workday, right? Like you have to work 8 hours, but realistically, people will come into work for 8 hours. They're not working 8 hours. You know, they're working a couple hours. They're working maybe 4 hours, maybe working half the day. The rest of the time, they're doing something else. They're just wasting the time. So like I'm big on like, you don't have to work these crazy long days, 10, 12 hours, 15 hours, like to be successful. Like you just have to do deep work. So
That's why everybody likes working for Google, because they have meditation
We were
rooms,
talking about that.
sleep rooms.
weren't we talking about how they don't like when you
Yeah,
use
they
those
don't
things?
like
I don't know, because I never worked
I
at
actually
Google.
was reading into it, and they're like, I was reading like a Quora, and people writing that they actually like Google doesn't really allow them, like they just make it sound
for
cool,
show.
but once you're in there, it's not like that.
Well, that's messed up.
I know.
Because I was just reading, I'm like, wow, this looks so awesome. I want a nap room where I can go there for 10 minutes.
You just can't use it.
Yeah.
So-
You can look at it.
All right,
So
then.
you're the boss, but if I'm the boss and I'm running the company,
No, sorry, I was cutting you off. I really, really love that idea, and I want to somehow incorporate all of these things. I think my way of incorporating these things has been to make things kind of lighthearted, and I make a lot of jokes. And I think that's my way to like make it a fun environment and not always like make it like, oh, we're at work and we have to kill ourselves in order to like make this happen, because I'm not trying to kill myself over anything, especially not work and money.
yeah, I mean,
So I want to incorporate, actually I wanted to create a meditation room here for that.
in the
like,
boiler room.
in the
Well, I use any of the rooms to
The
meditate.
kitchen.
I've meditated here plenty of times.
But I think that once like, I don't know, these are all things that we're thinking about, like how we can make it a really good place for us to be productive and get work done and just have fun living life.
And have good mental health, considering that
Yes.
we're
just gonna force everyone to meditate if they're part of Resilient Mind.
you know, we can't force them,
I'm joking.
but we can encourage people to not burn out, and we can teach these kind of systems for managing your mental and emotional states. And it's like, if you're doing some kind of work and you're getting paid hourly, like even if I'm paying you for 8 hours, like I'm not like, oh, you're here for 8 hours, you gotta be
Whoa.
by
I
your-
know what you're talking
by your
about.
computer, right, the whole time. It's like, no, it's like, get things done, get the important things done within your energy cycles, right, within how you could do it without burning out, without becoming unwell. Like that's how I think about it.
Or like,
This
sorry.
would be a fantastic training for all the clinicians, because every single hour that we see a client is deep work. So we're doing deep work on the hour, every hour, and you can't do therapy without being in it like that.
I don't know how to help them with their
And
burnout
the notes also, like
because
how
of
to
the fact that they have other jobs. You know what I
Right.
mean? So
Right.
that's like a huge factor, like, what am they
Well, to
chose
just give them this
the training, yeah.
Or like
Going
you can pass down what, you know, in individual supervision, some of this stuff.
Okay, it's
so
cold
then to
now,
help
yeah?
them prioritize.
Going forward, we can decide on what the max amount of clients that they can take, and this could be different. It may vary. It might be from this to this number, but realistically, it's like we could probably figure out what that number is, and we could just not allow people to have more. You know, especially when we have like full-time people, and it's like they're working for us, and it's like, listen, this is how it is, and it's for good reason.
Yep.
It's so you could provide good therapy, and you could be there consistently and effectively showing up for this person, and you could be around, and you could actually be mentally healthy. And that's my whole thing. It's like I put therapists in, I hold them to a higher standard, because it's like the work you're doing it's really hard work. It's really difficult work, and it's like you're working with people's psyche, and it's like, well, like your psyche is reflecting that. It's like you can't take that out of the picture. It's like two minds are there, that relationship, and it's like if you're messed up and you're not taking care of yourself, how are you gonna help somebody else? I don't know. And that's also, it's like you're still a human and you're still a person and you're still gonna have your issues and things, but it's like, I don't know, this aspect is important.
Ownership, yeah.
We need to have more concrete office hours, because we give the clinicians the flexibility, but that keeps like admin having to work till like 8 o'clock.
We need the clinicians to have their own numbers for that.
What do you mean?
Phone to be able to contact.
Right, so one of the things that I wanted to work on is maybe closing the office like once a week, or maybe, I don't know, every 2 weeks, where like it's just closed down, and we can go for a walk together, or we can not talk to each other, whatever you guys want. So maybe something like that, something to make sure that we are taking care of ourselves.
So here's I'll get into the end now, and this is the important part, is like taking a break. Taking a break, and what that means to me is changing your mental state. One, from deeply engaged focus, you're engaged with your tasks, to more of open awareness. So you can go for a walk, you can grab a coffee, eat a snack, meditate, call a friend. The social media thing, right? Like personally, I don't think that's the best thing, but it depends on you. It depends how it affects you. It depends how it makes you feel. For me, it's like I'm already so stimulated when I'm doing work. I'm reading, I'm writing, I'm doing something that's very engaged. So I don't want more stimulation. I want to actually step away from stimulation. I'd rather call a friend. I'd rather go for a walk. I'd rather meditate. That's what helps me. But you have to gauge what works for you. But that's important to do. Like every 90 minutes, every 2 hours, like take a break. Yeah.
So you answered my question.
Huh? When to do it? Well, yeah, the illustration
20
cycle. Yeah. Yeah, a 20-minute break is sufficient. 20, 30 minutes is sufficient. And then
I do a 2-minute like zone out. You can call it meditation, but it's not that focused. At the top of every hour.
Yeah, so that's what I've been doing. I just but I scroll through my phone for like 2 to 5 minutes, just to quickly, after like every hour and a half.
I do 5 things in the room with me and then describe their texture, 5 things I can feel on my skin and describe their texture, and then at least 2 things that I feel internally. And then usually I'm like, all right, I gotta go pee after I do all that. So then I take the bathroom break and come back.
Yeah, so that's like a mindfulness exercise. And yeah, like even 5 minutes or even a couple of minutes of that could be really powerful. It could be a reset. I think the issue that this social media is, even if you're like not really paying attention, all of that stuff is going into your head. Like the imprint is getting there. So now you're racking up all this stuff. So like personally, I would say social media, like if you need to go on it at the end of the day, and I have a whole workshop on positive habits. So this is really good with the phone, because the phone is a serious problem, and it's a serious problem for mental health. So if you're somebody that's on your phone all day, like you're constantly checking it, there's actually ways you could start rewiring that. For example, I don't check my phone till 10, or I don't check my phone till 12, or I don't check my phone till 3, or till, and then you could go longer. So you could set a time for when you go on social media. Literally, you could schedule it, but then you won't constantly be on it, because it's like knowing, oh, I'm gonna get the reward. I can go on social media. I know at 6 p.m. like I'm good, and it's guilt free. But a lot of it is compulsive, and I've seen this with myself. And I mean the social media thing as a whole. But I literally would see the compulsion in me, and I go through phases where I'm like on social media more, and I start paying attention. How's my mind? What am I doing? How often do I check it? And I always, like, I'll kind of go there and I'm on it, and I'm like, oh, I need to get off this. I want to stay off this. And personally, the less I'm on it, the better I feel. I don't know. That's just me. Just experiment for yourself. And this was just pretty much the last thing I want to say is most important thing with productivity is getting good sleep. Because if you don't got good sleep, good luck being productive and effective. And you know, some of us have young kids and we have to adjust and do the best we can. But if you can get good sleep, do it.
What is good sleep?
Figure out what it is for you. I could do a whole workshop on sleep because sleep to me is crazy. I have a app that tracks my sleep. I'm notoriously known to not go out. My friends don't even hit me up to go do things if they're late because I'm just not gonna go. People literally don't hit me up, and I've missed people's birthdays. I've missed things because it was too late, and some people would say that it's rigid, and maybe it is, but sleep is very important to me.
It's just a boundary.
Yeah, it's a boundary for me, and it's important, and it's because when I sleep well, I know how I am, the type of person I am, and I know when I don't sleep well, the type of person I am, and I will tell you right now, from my experience, 80%, like I would say that 80% of mental health could get resolved if people got better sleep. And like I know when I get bad sleep, I'm a mess, and I'm just like, what the hell is going on with me? So.
Okay, I have one question. How did you choose that picture for deep work?
This one?
Yeah.
I chose it. Well, there was another picture of a guy like diving in scuba gear, so like deep work. But then I liked this one because it was a guy in the middle of nowhere on his computer.
Okay.
So the point is, you want to get the hell away from all the distractions. So that's why I chose.
Cool.
But it's like he's in the middle of the street.
Yeah, well, he's like
And hopefully
in
he
the
has
woods.
internet.
Yeah.
It's like sand.
Okay,
That's my distraction. I'll go in the water.
so is BB coming back? But this is
I
the.
think she wants to go get food.
Yeah. Let me see where we are with time. I know we've been kind of.
We have
Okay.
time.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. Well, I wanted
What is the
to.
one thing you learned in this presentation that you can apply to be more?
Yeah, so like I'm curious, because I've been sitting with a lot of these ideas for a long time. So like I don't think anything here is like I don't think I said anything profound, but I have been thinking about this way of living and this way of thinking. So to me, it's like all this is simple. But I'm curious if like there's anything you've never heard of before. There's something new, or there's something that happened in our conversation that emerged that was new
I
for
wrote
you.
down here.
Yeah, well maybe. So,
Liz
well,
and
you want to
Sabrina.
wait for them? Yeah, maybe Liz and Sabrina could share.
I was going to say, the cycle, the wave, slide that you had, it actually was pretty interesting to see, the fact that we work pretty much 90 minutes and then kind of zone out after that time. I've never really thought of it that way, but it's true. Like I'll work for probably about an hour and a half, and have no problem with it, and then all of a sudden, like I kind of zone out, and I never really paid attention to it, but now that I kind of saw that, it makes sense.
And I think that we can have like open conversation about this because I know like sometimes I'll call you Liz or Sabrina and you can just be like, hey, I'm at my like breathing time, and then I'll know, and then I'll get back to
Don't
you.
answer.
Or don't answer me.
Call her back.
And my anxiety is just like, why just answer? No, I'm joking. Yeah, you can not answer me, or you could just tell me that you're doing that. Or like
Well,
whoever.
usually, yeah, that'll be like when I'm feeding Charlotte or something, or I don't know, like when I have to step away, but it actually having the baby makes it a little bit better, because I can step away from the computer and just feed her and, you know, just take care of her, and then I can come back and I kind of start fresh. You know, it's, you know what I mean? It's, I don't know, it's interesting to see.
Baby breaks.
Yeah, baby breaks.
Baby, there are little breaks, but breaks for the baby.
Okay, girls, we need your answers.
Yeah, I would love it if everybody
Let's
could just
eat
share
when we're
one
done.
thing, just
Okay,
one thing.
yeah.
Did you guys get pizza?
No, it's
Wraps?
wraps.
Damn, you didn't even ask me if I'm gonna.
We just got you one.
What'd you get?
Chicken Caesar wrap. I hope we got enough.
So,
How many
so
wraps
that
did we
it-
get? 3?
5.
If anything, I want.
You said 4, but I said 5. I was like, let me just get one more.
Yeah, here's another productivity tip. Make sure you wear all black. I didn't put that in my presentation. It's just easy. The most productive people are people that wear black every day.
And red sneakers.
I'm productive then, and that's all I have in my closet.
So what is one thing you learned in this presentation that you can apply to be more productive in your life?
Take
I
breaks.
can answer that.
Take breaks for sure. 'cause
Who's
I
that?
don't-
Sabrina?
I don't always take
Yeah.
breaks.
Hold on.
I mean, something I learned, and also something I do. I mean, I think Yana used to make fun of me because I like to write everything down. I'm not necessarily in an app. I just love, like, I have my notebook with me at all times.
Me too. Me too.
I love writing. But I realized, like, in the beginning, like the first year or so, I was really big on doing the to-do list, and I would always do it at the end of my shift. I would prepare mine for the following day. I kind of fell off with that, and I'm like, you know what, I need to get back to it because I would put my to-do list in priority order. You know, number 1, that's the first focus, and move down from there. So it's definitely something that kept me productive that I need to get back on that.
Write things down. So you stopped writing things down?
No, I still always write everything down, but I used to do my to-do list at the end of my day. I would prepare it for the following day. Like.
And you stopped doing that?
Huh?
And you stopped doing that?
Well, yeah, after like maternity leave, this is like my 2nd week back, so it's like, why am I not? I feel like, you know, I'm also like tired and everything, and I'm like, you know, I need to get back to my list. My to-do list is what got me going.
Yeah.
And just like being able to cross off my to-do list, it just makes me like, I'll get like a second win, like, oh, I'm ready to keep working.
It's a dopamine hit, like crossing things off.
Yeah, it's so satisfying. Like that's like I cannot move on to my next task without like crossing it out.
I like that, yeah.
Also, like, oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, actually writing it down and, like, highlighting it, and, like, that's how I'm the same way, Sabrina. Like, I need to actually, like, because you guys were talking about, like, apps and stuff, that doesn't register with me, like, typing it into an app, like, it does not.
Same. I have so many
I
apps.
have to write it. I know, me too. Like, I need to actually write it in my notebook and cross it out, like, a color, to actually, like, have it register in my brain, like, okay, I can move on to the next thing, or I'm kind of similar to you in that way too. It's
So-
different.
You guys are talking about that, and as you guys are talking about that, I see people in the room mostly shaking their head and nodding their heads like
Here's
in
my to-do
agreement.
list that I did
And
yesterday
so-
for today.
That brings to question the actual like effectiveness of all of these organizational apps that we do use.
Alright, BRB, gotta
Things
go
like
BRB.
Trello, like if we're all functioning better writing things down in a notebook, then how useful does Trello become?
I think because information can get lost, like in everybody's notebook.
Yeah,
It's like-
to have it integrated.
Yeah, like you can have it in your notebook, but then you're like, where did I write that again? You know. So on
Also,
Trello, it's like everyone kind of shares that.
Remember to
also
update.
I have Trello on my phone, so if I don't have my notebook and I'm like, I don't know, whatever, not by my computer, and I'm like, oh, this thing, I go right into Trello and I write it down.
Yeah. and
So that's
kind
Oh,
of
that's
double
it.
work
I don't have
putting
Trello on
it
my
in a
phone, that's all.
notebook.
I don't use
And then
notebooks
share.
anymore.
Yeah, so
Sure.
all of that.
But some people like the handwritten stuff, and I get it, but.
I think notebooks, there is something to writing things in hand,
Mhm.
especially for something, not even like to-do list, but like say you do an expressive journaling, like
Yeah.
it's better to write it with your hand. There's
Yeah.
more of the left-right brain connection in that process. And though I do think that digital devices and these digital apps, if you know how to use them, some of them could be complicated and you have to learn how to use them. They can be very effective, and there's things they can do that you probably can't do on your journal. And there's a whole nother aspect of productivity, which is called like building a second brain or a digital brain, and that's kind of having like, I literally have a second brain on my phone of information, resources, links, everything that I need that I don't want to keep in here, so I can have space for creativity. So that you could build out knowledge systems on your phone and on these apps like Evernote or whatever.
I wanna get to the workshop part.
Yeah, sure. Does anybody want to share anything else that they learned? Anybody else?
thanks for reinforcing some of the things I already do that sometimes I feel guilty about. When people call me, I just go to that texting, boom, can I call you later? Send.
Mhm.
You know, I like to send a message back. I just don't to like to silence people or like, you know, just
Yeah.
make a little note so they know
Yeah.
that, you know, I'm not just being all rude and whatnot, but
Yeah.
thanks for making
Yeah.
me feel okay about doing that. I'll do that more now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah, like, I don't know, it's just something that to me is important, and it doesn't feel disrespectful, because I'll always make time for the people in my life, but there's just certain things, like, I just can't, like, right now is 9 o'clock, or it's 10 o'clock, or 11 o'clock, like, I need to use this time to do this work. Like, that's important to me, and I'll talk to you later. I'll take a lunch break with you. We'll go grab lunch, and I'll be a better person because I've already done that work, and I feel good about it. People who don't understand it. The point is that it's important that we understand it. Anybody else have anything they want to share?
I have something like also personal that I go through when I work is anxiety. Well, I have it all the time, but it comes when I work too. So like I constantly have this feeling that I need to get things done. Everything is always urgent and important. And I think that because of the anxiety, I'm not sure.
How to decide.
That's what
Not
anxiety
even
is.
how to decide. I could decide, but it won't feel like it's not urgent and not important. Or maybe if I start doing this more often and I see it, because to me everything is urgent and important.
Yeah.
It always feels like I'm not gonna get things done.
In anxiety, there's like things seem more salient, and there is this sense of like, oh, this is gonna happen. It's definitely gonna happen, and it's like something that's very unlikely. So I can see how it could be the same thing. Like, oh, everything's important, but I don't know. I don't know if there's an easy
I
way.
also learned something about myself through like working and the experience so far that like I'll turn things into meetings, and I think that it's gonna take like all day to do, and then me and Michelle sit down and do it, and it was like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So in my head, I'm like, oh my god, Michelle, tomorrow, 9 a.m. we're meeting to talk about resumes. Michelle's like, okay. And in my head, I'm like,
This is
busiest
gonna
day
take
of
the
work.
whole
The whole
day.
day. We
That's
talked, it
right.
was like literally like 30 minutes.
That's cool, but that's why you got other things. So that's one of the
There's a
important
lot
things.
of meetings that could have been emails.
I got you a cup.
Yeah,
Sorry.
there's a book that I read, and it was a business book, and one of the principles in there was from, I think it was called Rework, but it was from a bunch of dudes that did like successful startups, and they said something. It was like something about meetings, like no meetings, like we're just eliminating. We're eliminating. You like the social aspect, the chit chatting and all that, and that's cool, but it's like, think about which meetings you really need. A lot of meetings,
Okay,
like
let's think about it.
exactly what Sabrina said. There's a lot of meetings that could have been an email. I like that.
When you have to delegate, that could be an email, it doesn't have to be a discussion. But when you have to maybe make a decision on something and you want other people's input because the decision is gonna be more impactful than just you, maybe you want a meeting for that, because it's not just social, it's also brainstorming. Like there's things that you can do on your own, like, but you don't have the same experience as the person to your left, you just wouldn't have known until you had the meeting and had the conversation, like the stuff that came up for you today, like what you learned from giving the presentation also, that, maybe wasn't the same as when you came into it.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have happened without the meeting.
Yeah, I wanted to share that one thing that I learned, which is that like, I didn't expect to learn something, but I did, and I think you could always learn something. But I definitely learned how. I think I knew it a little bit because I had that example of how a task could shift from one thing, but then also how it's different for everybody. Like what's important and urgent for me could not be important and urgent for somebody else.
Maybe, sorry, you wanted to say something and then Sabrina started. Yeah, you
I
wanted
don't
to.
remember.
You said taking a break.
I don't remember. But yeah, taking a break. I was gonna
Is there
say something
anything
else,
on?
but I don't remember what else.
I mean, for me, like, what I didn't realize that I do is like checking in with myself when I'm like doing papers and things like that. I didn't realize that I actually do that in a way. So it's just like becoming more self-aware of like the things that I do and the things that I don't do and the things that I can like work on. I think that's like what I took away from the presentation. Just becoming more self-aware.
Yeah, I'm I'm glad that was what resonated with you.
I like the
That's
setup,
what's important to me.
focus, and do not disturb. I feel like that's gonna be awesome for me.
Mhm.